Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to our SketchUp and Enscape workshop. This is the fourth event in the APX virtual workshop series, and we're really excited about it because it's being led by the design kids, finally. So this is being recorded right now, and we're gonna post it on our APX Scopus YouTube channel after the event. Hopefully before the end of the week, that'll be up, and I'll send out a link to everyone who registered on the form since I have their emails. And our next and last event in our workshop series for the semester is gonna be an internship and networking workshop run by our students and the career services people again, sometime next month. Usually we do them every 2 weeks, but I think 2 weeks from now is going to be a tough time. So it'll probably be one of the first weeks of December. And we'll have more information about that coming out soon. And if you would like to keep up with our events, you can always follow us on Instagram at APX Scopus. And feel free to message me if you have any questions or anything. So leading us today is Olivia McMaster, a senior environmental and interior design major in the School of Design and our fellow APX member. We're so happy to have her here. She's been with us since the beginning, so we all know each other very well. And without further ado, if you want to go ahead and start.
Yeah. All right. Gio, can you allow me to share my screen?
Yes, I should have done that at the beginning. Okay, try now.
There we go. Okay. So, does everyone have SketchUp up and running who wants to follow along? Does anyone have any issues with opening it? Okay. All right. So when you go into SketchUp, most likely there's going to be this kind of gray and blue background, and there's going to be like a little man there. You can delete the little guy. He's just there for scale purposes. He's kind of pointless. So you can delete him. And basically this is what we're going to make today, which is just a little living room situation. And then we'll put a ceiling on it and we'll render it out in Enscape. So this is what we're trying to make. So we're going to start by doing the walls first. So I'm going to move over here. So first things first, when you're going around in SketchUp, if you have your mouse, the little roller thing is going to zoom you in and out. If you hold the scroll down and move your mouse, it's going to rotate it. And if you hold down Shift while doing that same thing, pressing down the roller and moving your mouse, it's going to move it without rotating it. And basically, SketchUp is generally fairly simple. It's very intuitive. You basically draw everything and extrude it. So you're going to use a lot of the pencil tool to draw your lines, a lot of the extrusion tool, the push-pull tool and such, and then rotations and everything. One of the cool things about SketchUp 2 is the measuring tool. So like if I forgot how big I made this wall or whatever, I can click on the little measuring tape and click, from here to here. And then if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, it'll say like length 15 feet 6 inches. So that's always a great tool to use when you're trying to figure layouts out. So we're going to move over here. I'm going to move away from the one that I built. So we're going to start with the main room and not the little half hallway thing. So I'm going to come up here to my pencil tool. I'm just going to click anywhere. And so you can see, depending on what color the line is going to tell you what axis you're drawing on. So I want to draw on the red one. So I'm going to make sure my line is red. And I'm going to type in 16 feet. I'm just going to type 16 and then the feet symbol and hit enter. And it'll make my 16-foot line. Then on this back part, because right now I'm going to draw this wall, I'm going to draw this. I'm going to go on the green axis and draw at 18 feet. So same thing, type in 18, the foot symbol, and then enter. And then you can also, I could type 16 feet if I wanted to, but I can also reference something else, and that little dotted line will come up. So SketchUp really is good at referencing other lengths within different projects, and you wouldn't have to type it in again. And then I'm going to then just kind of connect the whole thing, and it's going to become a rectangle. So the way that SketchUp works is you have the faces of things when you click on it can do one thing, and then also the lines themselves are a separate piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the offset button to make 6-inch thick walls. So the offset button is this one right here. It should have kind of 2 lines and an arrow. So I'm going to click on that one, and I'm going to hover over my square or my rectangle, and I'm going to click and drag. So I'm going to click and drag, and while I'm clicking and dragging, I'm going to type in 6 and the inch symbol and hit enter. So now it's offset that rectangle, and what I can do is come in here. I'm going to click on the interior square. I'm going to delete it and just hit the delete key, and now I have my walls. So I'm going to zoom out because I forget how tall I made these. I'm going to measure the height of the walls. They're 9 feet. Okay. So once I have my walls drawn, I'm going to come up here to, also if I'm going too fast, like please let me know. I'm going to go to the push and pull button. I'm going to click it. I'm going to hover again until I see the little dots appear because I know I'm clicking on the right thing. I'm going to click it and drag, and I'm going to type in 9 feet. And then I magically have 9-foot walls. So these are here. Now, one of the biggest, one of the most important things in SketchUp is to group stuff. So the way that SketchUp works is if I could easily draw, you know, something on here, some weird shape. And now this becomes something on the wall that I can extrude. If I want to be able to draw something on top of a wall and not have it affect the wall, they need to be in different groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of the walls, and you just kind of click and drag so you cover everything. I'm going to right click on it, and I get this little list. So if you want, say I was making a door and I was editing a door, and I'm going to put that door in like multiple different spots in the project. And if I edit that door, I want it to change on every single door in the project, I could make it a component. And what a component does is that if you go into the component and make edits, it does it to every single time you have that component in a project. If I don't want that to happen, I want this door and another door to be unique, I would group them because then they don't affect each other. So for this, I'm going to hit make group, and now my walls are a group. So when I click on it, it's totally its own thing. I can draw on top of the walls and they won't affect the walls. If I group something and I want to go in and edit it, I double click on the group, and now you can see like this stuff over here is all kind of grayed out because I'm only dealing with what's in the group. So next what I'm going to do is we're going to make this kind of bump out for the, what's it called? The fireplace, that's the word. All right, so I'm going to come over here, I'm going to zoom into, I'm going to double click into my wall group. I'm going to zoom into this wall is the one that I'm going to deal with, is this far one. So, or yes, hold on a second. All right, we're going to measure real quick. So from here to here is 4'6". Okay. Come back over to the new one. Double click into my group. So you can set guidelines in SketchUp. So if I click here with my measuring tape tool and I pull over, you can see a dotted line shows up. So these are guidelines. And I'm going to type in 4'6". Oh, if my SketchUp doesn't freeze. Hold on. Sometimes SketchUp does this. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to type 4'6" inches. And now I have this guideline set, offset 4'6" inches from the other wall. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So 4 foot 6 inches. So now I have my 2 lines here. And this should be, yep, perfect. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 2 lines here. So the SketchUp will grab onto it'll recognize the intersection between the wall and the grid line, the guideline. So I'm going to draw a line straight up the wall here. I'm going to do the same thing here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow these lines across, because with SketchUp, it's like you have to draw every single line. So if I want this section of the wall to be separate, right now, the only thing that's separate is this plane, but the top is still connected to everything else. So what I'm going to do is follow the lines down. So now I'm going to take the line here and along the red axis, draw backwards. Same over here. Then I'm going to click, turn the whole thing around, draw the lines down. And then I'm going to flip it upside down and connect the lines here. So now this whole section of the wall is sectioned off. And what I can do is, so I'm going to hit escape, so I'm out of the group. I'm actually going to explode this group real quick so that it's not together. I'm going to come here and I want just this section. So I'm going to angle it when I highlight it, so I'm only getting this one. And I'm going to group this separately. So I'm going to make this its own group. And then what I can do is this is going to be bumped out. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to measure from here to here is 6 inches. So I'm going to come back to this one. We're going to click on that and we're going to hit the move button, which is just the 4 arrows. And I'm going to move it along the red axis. I'm going to type in 6 inches. So now I have this offset. So you can see that the wall is hollow, which I actually think may need to get moved more than 6 inches. Hold on. Yes, okay, so we're actually going to move it another 6 inches because I was measuring from the back. So we're going to click on it again, and then same tool, just click kind of towards where the floor would be, move along the red axis another 6 inches, so that there's a 6 inch gap between this wall and this one. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from this corner. I'm going to draw it out 6 inches so that I have a dot, and then I'm going to draw a line up. So now I know that this is 6 inches off because we're going to draw more walls. Another tool that you can do in SketchUp, if you know you're going to draw like an exact rectangle or something like that, is you can come up here to the shape tool. And if you click the little down arrow, you can draw rectangles, you can draw circles, different polygons, stuff like that. So for this one, I know I'm going to be drawing just a simple rectangle. So I'm going to click the rectangle tool and I'm going to have it highlight this corner. I'm going to click and I'm going to pull it down to this corner and click again. So now there's a rectangle here. And what I can do is go to the push pull button and pull it and set it to this space. So when you're doing the push pull, if you're extruding something and you don't necessarily have to always type in the exact distance you're going to extrude if you know that it's going to be flush with something else. So I can just pull it and pull my cursor over onto this wall, and SketchUp will understand that I want it to be pulled to that base. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. I'm going to draw 6 inches. I'm going to draw up until I get that blue line, so I know that I'm on the right axis and I'm parallel. I'm going to draw another rectangle. And you can see that now it's its own thing. And I'm going to pull it to this space. And then let's sketch it simple here. All right. So now we have kind of this entire situation going on. So what we're going to do next is draw this kind of back piece to the fireplace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, and measure this. So this is 6 feet, and this is 3 feet. And the distance from here to here is a weird number. Because I think this got kind of screwed up, but it's all good. Okay. So we're going to draw kind of a trapezoid. So we're going to go back over here. Oh, hold on. Okay, so one good thing that SketchUp's good at is you can make mistakes and easily fix them because I drew on the wrong wall. So what we're going to do is, because this was supposed to be a 16-inch wall, it's all good. So right now this is 18 inches, but I want it to be 16. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the push and pull. From here, we're going to take the measuring thing, measure out from here to here. We want it to be 16 feet. So we're going to take the push and pull, just kind of drag it to any random size, and then we're going to go on this side and pull it to the marker. And then we're going to offset this 6 inches and then place this. Pull that there. And then I'm going to delete these and do kind of the same situation here because I want this to be 18 feet, not 16. So I'm going to do 18 feet. So I'm going to pull this down here. Going to go 6 inches there. And then pull him back there. Okay, now we're back to where generally we should be. Does everyone get what's going on? Because that's my fault that I made a mistake. If you have a question, like, feel free to unmute yourself whenever and just like shout it out. So we're going to recenter this, which is fine. And that's also why it's great to have this be its own group, because it kind of wasn't affected by anything else. So what we should have is the 16-foot wall is the wall that we want the fireplace on, not the 18-foot wall. And that's where the mistake ended up happening. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hide this guy. So one way that you can hide geometry in SketchUp, if you want to see something or you need to edit something else, you can hide and unhide. So I'm going to right click on this group and I'm just going to hit hide. So it disappears. Once I want it back, I go into view, hidden geometry. It comes back. I right click again. I hit unhide. And then I go to view and I uncheck hidden geometry and it comes back. So we're going to hide this for now. And what I want is I'm going to get rid of these guys. So generally, if you need to delete anything, it's just highlight and hit the delete key on your thing. So we're going to go over 5 feet. 5 feet from the outside. So this whole situation, like this line, is now going to be in line with this grid. So this is a 6-inch wall. So I'm just going to kind of move this guy and extrude him out another 6 inches. And then I'm going to just push this whole thing in 6 inches, which is just going to go 6 inches. And then just gonna get rid of that line and close this back in. So a lot of SketchUp is very, delete a line, grab a line, because it's mostly dealing with kind of surfaces and hollow situations. It's nothing's ever solid, which makes it fairly simple to kind of manipulate. So then we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to go from the side, type in 5 feet, and we're going to bring this situation out this way. So I'm going to pull him all the way out to this line. And then what I'm going to do is take my grid tool again, go over 6 inches, and I'm going to rotate so I can see better. And we're going to go move this guy so he's in line with the 6 inches. So now I have this. I can delete these lines. They don't mean anything anymore. Don't overly stress about having extra lines in there, because when you go into Enscape, the lines disappear. So it's not like a bunch of weird lines are going to show up on anything. All right. So now that this is here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unhide view, hidden geometry. I'm going to unhide this guy. Hidden geometry. So he is supposed to be the width of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my move button. I'm going to click on this corner of the group, move it in line with this. And then what I'm going to do is double click this group so that I'm only editing this group, not touching these walls. And I'm going to hit my push and pull tool. I'm going to pull it back to be in line with the face. So even if you're in a group, SketchUp will still reference faces or distances that are outside of that group. So I'm going to click my regular mouse tool. I'm going to double click out so that we're all kind of set here. Perfect. Okay. So now we're actually going to make the fireplace situation. So we're going to draw a line that's 6 feet wide or long. So, and we're going to draw it along the green axis. So I'm going to draw 6 foot. Then I believe this is 3 feet. Yep, all right, 3 feet. Okay. So then we're going to draw a line that's centered. That's 3 feet. But to make sure it's the right distance, we're going to measure from here to the back line where we want it to be. So right now it's giving me a weird number because I think I just pushed and pulled it. So we're just going to make it an easy number. So instead of 1 foot 9 inches and 11 and 16ths, we're just going to make it 1 foot 10. So I'm going to go back over and I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to get to the center mark of this line. I'm going to draw back on the red axis 1 foot 10 inches. Now I know I want that back line to be 3 feet, so I'm going to split it in half and draw 1 foot 6 inches in either direction. So I'm going to draw in this way 1 foot 6 inches, and then in this side I'm going to draw 1 foot 6 inches. Now to finish off the trapezoid, I'm just going to connect this corner to this one, and then this corner to this one. And I'm going to delete this center line because it's unnecessary. So now I have a trapezoid that's generally marked out for what this is going to be. You know, I drew the baseline that we drew is this right here. Then we drew that one. And now we're going to offset it 6 inches like we did before. So I'm going to go over to my trapezoid. I'm going to offset it with the offset button, click and drag. I'm going to do 6 inches. And I'm going to delete this guy. So with this, however, I don't want this wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. I'm going to take my pen tool, going to click, and I'm going to drag down. So you can see if there's an angle that you have in SketchUp, if your line comes up pink, like mine is now, it means that SketchUp is understanding the angle and the slope of that line and is matching it. So I'm going to click right here. I'm going to do the same thing on this side so that I stay parallel. Then I'm going to highlight right here, and I'm just going to delete it. So now we have kind of the backing of the fireplace chimney situation. So I'm then going to take my push and pull tool, go up and type in 9 feet to match the ceiling height. Now, just like this guy, we're going to make this its own group as well. So I'm going to highlight it, right click, make a group. So then I'm going to move this group. I'm going to click it with the move tool. I'm going to click this edge. I'm going to pull it right in here. And that's where I want it. Now you can see, for whatever reason, it's not the size that I want it. And that's okay, because I think what I want is this, because I just put it in the wrong spot. So I'm going to move it to here, and it's going to look like this. And it looks kind of awkward. So what's cool about SketchUp is we can now make this flush, and we can fill the gap. So these walls are still not a group. They're still their own thing on purpose. So what we're going to do now is take my pen tool, and we're going to just draw straight across. Then we're going to draw straight across again, and then kind of connect the dots here. So now it just plugs up that hole. I can draw a line here, and it plugs up the hole there. So again, on this side, we're going to grab this corner, draw straight across until we hit the edge of the little fireplace thing that we made. Click it. Then I'm going to go down here. Also, when you're between lines, if you want to draw a line up here and then you want to jump down to a line up here, the escape button on your keyboard kind of helps you to like detach from the recommended corner. So SketchUp is doing its thing. All right, so I'm going to click down here, draw a line over, and then I'm going to connect this line up to here, and it fills the gap. And I'm going to click on this gap and click up here, and we fill it. So now, if you were on the outside of this building, it wouldn't look funny. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this a group now. So I'm going to highlight everything, just like that. I'm going to hold my Shift key because this allows me to click on multiple groups or unclick groups. So I'm going to unclick the background, the fireplace. I'm going to unclick that kind of front panel. So now all I have highlighted is every other part of the walls. I'm going to make that its own group. So I'm going to right click, make a group. So now we have the basic walls of the fireplace and the main room figured out. So now we're going to do the floor. The floor is going to be super simple. We're going to flip to the bottom. So one way that you can, aside from just dragging yourself, if you go up to view, or sorry, if you go up to camera, next to view in kind of your top bars, they have standard views. So you could click bottom and SketchUp's going to flip to the bottom for you. And you can also turn on and off perspective. So right now I have perspective set on, which is why you can kind of see the way that the depth of things. If I uncheck perspective, then it kind of looks like a floor plan. Sometimes we turn them on and off if we're trying to kind of capture our finished floor plan and want to take a picture from above with some of the finishes in. But I'm going to put perspective back on. So I'm going to flip to the bottom. This is now the bottom of our project. These are all groups, which means anything I draw now isn't going to affect these. So what I'm going to do is just basically trace. I'm going to start in this corner, click on this corner. We're going to come to this intersection point, trace the outside. Sometimes you get lost in SketchUp and you just got to kind of scroll back out. Click here, onto this corner, and then finishing off to that corner. So now we've made a floor, but it has no thickness, so we're going to pull it. So we're just going to do a generic 12-inch floor, and we're just going to pull it down. So I can pull it however long I want. As long as I'm holding and clicking and pulling, I'm going to type in 1 foot and Now we have a floor. So just like the walls, I'm going to highlight the whole floor so that the floor is highlighted. I'm going to scroll up because I have a feeling I want to make sure no other groups are highlighted. So we're good for right now. I'm going to right click and I'm going to make it a group. So now we have our walls and we have our floor of our main space. Now we're going to draw this little side piece. So the reason I drew this little side piece is when we render it in Enscape, I want to be able to kind of situate myself in this corner and look out, and I don't want to see just random background. So, you know, for these, sometimes if you're just doing a room or whatever, you can kind of add on, you know, a hallway or a little bit of whatever would be in the next room, so then you don't see grass, you know, out a doorway that's supposed to lead to another interior. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure here. All right, so now we're going to measure from this corner. We're going to measure it down to here. Sometimes SketchUp likes to freeze and take its time, which is also another way of saying please save often, because it will crash on you at times. So it's very frustrating when it does. So the distance from the back wall with the fireplace to the back of the wall of the little hallway is 9 feet 6 inches. So what we're going to do is going to unclick here, scroll over to our new version, and we're going to use our handy dandy measuring tool, and we're going to go over 9 foot 6 inches. So we're there. Now what I'm going to do is I want to go over, I'm going to measure this wall. So I want to go over 6 feet with this wall. So I'm going to draw here. I'm going to, once SketchUp decides not to freeze. All right, cool. Going to go over 6 inches for the thickness. So it's going to yell at me. That's also cool. 6 inches, go up and connect the dots again. So now I'm going to push and pull. I want this to go 6 feet. So sometimes if SketchUp like just confuses itself and draws in random lines, it does it sometimes. Just delete them. It's not going to hurt anything. So now I have this wall. Then the next wall that I want to make is going to be this side wall. So I'm going to measure it. It's going to run 18 feet. So I'm going to click over here. We're going to draw a line from this right here. We're going to draw a line 18 feet. Then a thickness of 6 inches. Another 18 feet. Or you can just kind of reference 18 feet and then right there. I'm then going to pull this wall up and reference the height of the wall next to it. And then lastly, we don't have to really measure this last wall because it's just going to extrude to the same distance as this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from here. I'm going to go over 6 inches. Draw a line up. Make sure I get that blue line to make sure that it's parallel. Sometimes you got to kind of rotate your view. Go over 6 and then go back down. So now I have a rectangle. And I'm going to hold that and reference here. So now I have the walls of my little hallway. And just like we always have been doing, I'm going to highlight them. I'm going to group them. So the main reason why you end up grouping things is 1, it helps you to keep things organized. 2, it helps to make sure that any changes you make to certain things that you don't want to affect others aren't going to, affect them. And it generally keeps your files pretty organized as well. So last part of kind of building the base of everything is we're going to do another floor. So we're just going to scroll down. This one's going to be a lot easier than the last one because it's just a rectangle. So I'm going to go up to my rectangle tool. I'm going to click on this edge of the bottom. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag to here. So you can see that the rectangle is going to have the outline be in whatever color axis you're on. So we're drawing on the blue axis, which is why it's a blue line. So I'm just going to click here. I made my rectangle, and I'm going to extrude down a foot and reference this one. And then once again, make my group. But first what I'm going to do, because I want this to go underneath here, I'm just going to come over, highlight that right there, and I'm going to put it there. And what I can do is, if I don't want this kind of funky overlap, I can trace the overlap, which is now going to make this its own situation. So then I can push it up and get rid of it. So now we're going to highlight like we've been doing. We're going to make this its own group. So now we have all of the walls built and all of the floors built, which is great. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the door, and we're going to put in windows. So the door is kind of similar to everything we've been doing thus far. It's drawing and pushing and pulling. So I know that I want this doorway to be 6 inches off the interior wall. And I also know I want it to be a 3-foot wide doorway, because I'm not going to put an actual door there. I just want to have like an open entrance. So I'm going to zoom back out, come back over, and now I'm going to double click into this group. I'm going to double click in here, so I'm only working with these walls. I'm going to measure out 6 inches, and I'm going to measure out 3 feet. And then just like all, standard door heights are 7 feet. So I'm going to go up from the bottom 7 feet. Then I'm going to go over to my rectangle tool. I'm going to hit this intersection point, drag it down to this intersection point, and now I have my own doorway. I'm going to take the push-pull button. I'm going to push it back. So if you see where it says offset limited to 6 inches, and you can see that kind of there's like a weird gradient to my pull. If that shows up, it means that when you let go, it's going to delete it, meaning there's going to be an empty space, which is what we want. So I'm going to delete. I'm going to unclick. It's going to do its thing. And now it's gone. So I'm going to delete these grids, and I'm just going to hit escape to get out of the group. So now we have, I'm going to get rid of this dude too. Now we have our doorway. So now we're going to do the windows. So I'm going to hide these windows. Again, kind of if you hold down control, you're able to click on multiple things at a time. So I'm going to hide these so you can see the openings. All right, so making the openings is going to be the exact same situation as the door. So we're going to measure out on the exterior to go over to here. It's 5 feet, 8 inch, and 7/8. So if we want, just to make things a little bit easier, we're just going to make it 5 foot, 9 inches. All right, so unclick, scroll over here. I'm going to double click in this situation. Oh, here, first let's measure out all of it, just to make our lives easier. So if you want to, usually a lot of times when I'm doing SketchUp, I'll have like a little notebook next to me if I need to like Post-its if I need to write anything down. So we're going to draw over 5 foot, 9 inches. Then there's going to be a 2-inch space between each window. So then there'll be 2 inches. And the width of the window is going to be 2 feet, 3/4 inches. So the way we got 2 foot, 3/4 inches is just I found a dimension size of a window, a double hung window that I wanted to put in my project. And a lot of times if you just Google like sizes of double hung windows, it'll give you the rough opening versus the size of the window. So the 2 foot, 3/4 inch was the rough opening that I chose. So you're going to then, so it'll be your 5 foot 9, then it'll be your 2 foot, 3/4 inch, then it'll be 2 inches, another 2 foot, 3/4, another 2 inches, and then a final 2 foot, 3/4 inches is how we're going to make this. Now, they're going to be 3 feet off the ground, and the height of the rough opening is going to be 4.5 feet. inches. Okay. So now we're going to go back over here. And we're going to double click in here again. So we're going to take this grid, move it over 5 foot 9 inches. Then we're going to move this over 2 foot and 3/4 inches. Oh, okay. So sometimes when you do them, it'll make the line like that instead of vertical. So we're just gonna hit the undo button, which is just like Control Z, and you want to make sure it ends up like this. So 2 foot 3/4 inches. Oh no, I don't want 3/4 feet. I want 2 foot 3/4 inches. Then again, gonna click 2 inches and 2 foot 3/4 inches. Another 2 inches. And then another 2 foot 3/4 inches. So now I'm going to go down to the bottom, I'm going to go up and make one at 3 feet. And then from that line, I'm going to go up 4 foot 1/2 inches. So now I have my 3 rectangle rough openings, and I can just use my rectangle tool, draw my 3 rectangles. And then I can push them back till they disappear. All right. Then I'm going to just highlight my grids and delete them so they don't end up just kind of hanging out anywhere. And I'm going to hit escape to get out of the group. So now we have all the openings for everything. And this is where we're going to start. Oh, wait, hold on. We actually have one more opening to do that I forgot about. So I'm going to click on the fireplace. I'm going to hide the fireplace. So we have to make this opening right in here. So from the center, I'm going to do draw line there. And so from the center, it's going to be 0 inches apparently. Every once in a while, SketchUp will kind of get a little confused. So that's 1 foot 7 inches. And then it's going to should be the exact same on this side of 1 foot 7 inches. Okay. And then our height is going to be 3 foot 1 inches. Okay. I'm going to, okay. We're going to scroll back out. And then now we're going to click on this guy. So we have him grouped. We're going to double click on him. We are going to find the midpoint. I'm going to draw over 1 foot 7 inches. And I'm going to find that end point, draw up 3 foot 1 inches. Then we're going to go back to the center, which is now also an end point. I'm going to go in the opposite direction, 1 foot 7 inches. Find that end point, go up 3 foot 1 inch, and then connect them. And again, just like everything else, we've now made a rectangle, and we're going to push it so that it goes away. And then I'm just going to hit escape. So now I have all of my openings that I need. So I'm going to do File, Save. Always save it. I always recommend saving backups. I once accidentally deleted the entire second floor of my building by accidentally clicking on something, and it was very frustrating. So save backup files, because unlike Revit, it does not automatically save backup files. So now this is when we're going to go into the 3D warehouse. So the reason why in order to do this workshop, you had to make a Trimble account is because SketchUp has a 3D warehouse, which is basically manufacturers or just kind people will model things in SketchUp and upload them to the 3D warehouse for you to use whenever you want. And that's how we got all this furniture in. It's how we had the windows in, all that stuff. You don't have to model it yourself. Someone else has already done it for you. So I'm going to go into Window, and I'm going to go down and click on 3D Warehouse. And this lovely screen should pop up. And you can see there's a bunch of stuff in the 3D Warehouse. So is everyone, I'll take a pause real quick. Does anyone have any questions or is lost or needs help? Are we all good? Okay, awesome. All right, so now we're going to type into the 3D warehouse, we're going to type in double hung windows and hit enter. And it should load a bunch of different versions of double hung windows. Now, something that's new with the 3D warehouse, it used to not be a thing, is that SketchUp now has a products page, which means any of these models that you download are actual products that you could spec in a project if you wanted to. For our purposes, because we're not actually making this, I'm going to go into the models category and I'm going to download this one. So it's made by Joe. I don't know who Joe is, but that's what's great about 3D warehouse. It's just a bunch of random people making a bunch of models. So I'm going to click this button, the download button, and it'll say, oh, hold on. So I have to sign in. So I'm just going to sign in with Google. And just this one. All right. Let's see. Cool. Thanks to the house. All right, there we go. Okay. Failed to load search. Cool. So I'm just going to hit enter again. All right. So I'm going to download this one. Hit yes. And then it's going to load. So now they popped into my model. So they come in as a group. I don't want them as a group because I'm going to delete some of them because I only want one version. I'm going to hit explode. So if you ever have a group and you don't want it to be a group anymore, just right click, hit explode. I'm going to delete this one. Oh, okay, highlight that. I don't want this one. And then I'm going to put this dude. And I'm thinking this guy is probably going to be our best bet. So I'm going to delete him. So now we have this lovely situation. So we have to make sure, so this one, what I like about this model is that they put the frame in as well. So it's not just a window kind of sitting in the rough opening you made, but they have the actual framing. So first things first is this is going to be the inside frame. I want this is the inside the windowsill. So I'm going to rotate this. So while it's clicked, I'm going to come up here to my rotate button. I'm going to click on rotate and a little circle should appear. If I just click anywhere, I'm going to drag it. So the first drag that you do is the position it's in right now. So I'm going to drag it to the side. So I'm going to do a 180-degree turn. So I'm just going to click on the red axis and then just start moving. I'm going to wait till it goes totally 100 degrees. I'm going to click again. So now, if I zoom in, the correct side is facing the right way. So now what I'm going to do is, so we want this kind of inside piece, we want it to be 2 foot 3/4 inches this way, and we want it to be 4 feet and a half, 4 feet and then 1/2 inches that way. Most likely it's not already that size. So we're going to measure it. So right now we're sitting at 2'6", so it's too big. What's cool about SketchUp is there's a scale tool. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to click right here on the midpoint and I'm going to draw a line that's 2 foot 3/4 inches. So I have a reference point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the group. I'm going to come up here and hit the scale button. So the scale button is right in between the measure button and the rotate. So I'm going to hit scale and a little yellow situation should pop up. You can click on any of these little boxes and they're going to scale them from different kind of points of origin. So we're going to click on the one that's in the center of horizontally and also vertically. So we're going to click on this one and I can click and I can drag and it will scale the entire group. So the reason why we drew the reference line is I'm going to scale and kind of drag my cursor so that it picks up the endpoint. So I'm going to scale that there. I'm going to go back up and click my regular tool. And you can see it's kind of funky. It moved. So this isn't an exact science. And if you can make it more exact if you kind of exploded the group and stuff like that. But for our purposes, because we're just trying to kind of get the gist of this, We're just going to kind of eyeball it a little bit. Now you can see it's not what we want because it's taking this outside piece as the reference instead of the inside. So we're just going to click on our scale again and kind of just move it out until it looks, you know, about correct, which is like roughly there. And so now it's going to be pretty much, you know, give and take maybe about a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch at this point. Situations. What is that? Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing for the height. We know that it's going to sit. We're going to take it from the lowest point, which is right here. I'm going to probably draw out just so that I can kind of see it more. And then I'm going to go up 4 feet 1/2 inches. So we know we want it to be, so it's too tall at this point. So now I'm going to do again what I did before. I'm going to scale it down. So I'm going to drag it. And I'm going to go a little bit to here. And you can see, obviously, it's not where we want it to go. So now I'm just going to kind of eyeball it up until it's about the right height. If you were doing this as an actual project, I implore you to be a little bit more exact than I'm doing right now. But for time purposes and trying to learn as much as possible, we're just going to eyeball it. So now we have a window that is pretty much the size that we want it to be for our rough opening. It's a double hung window. It has what we want it to have. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click on the move button and we're going to click this bottom corner because that's what we want to line up with our building. So now we're going to move them over, kind of click and drag and pull over here. So I want the part that I have highlighted, I want to stick to this corner. So I'm going to kind of bring it over, drag, and then you'll kind of see it snap and SketchUp will recognize it. And now all of a sudden, magically, we have a window that looks pretty nice. So what we're going to do next is just, I'm going to click it. I'm going to hit Control-C to copy it. I'm going to hit Control-V to paste it. And that exact window is going to paste again. And I'm going to do that same step. I'm going to zoom in, grab onto this little guy, this little corner, zoom out a little bit. Sometimes you get trapped in a wall in SketchUp and it's very disorienting. Just kind of zoom out and you always find back where you're supposed to be. I'm going to click it till it kind of grabs onto that corner. See, all right, so this time it didn't grab onto the corner. Sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to try again. Drag it over. Okay, SketchUp. All right, perfect. And then we're going to paste it one more time. Control-V. Also, just so you know, I'm doing all this on a PC. It should work exactly the same on the Mac, except just your keyboard shortcuts would be a little different. I think it's a command instead of control if you're doing it on Mac. So for a third and final time, I'm going to grab there, and come over to our rough opening, wait till it snaps, click, and now we have 3 windows all set in our space. And because they're all together, it's working out pretty well. All right, so we're not going to put in a door because we want it to be just an open space. So the next kind of big chunk that we want to put in is we want to put in our fireplace. So just the same way that we've done before, with the windows, going to go to 3D Warehouse, do a new search for fireplace, search, and it gives you a lot of options. So like before, so this is the model section, so you have a bunch of different models you can pick from. If you go into the collections section, they have kind of formed different collections of fireplace accessories, other types of fireplaces, that kind of stuff. So you can kind of click in one of them, and it'll be, you know, one person will have created a bunch of different stuff. You can go into here, and it just is another way of kind of formatting it. A lot of times it's great to go into collections if you're looking for like pillows or kind of big things instead of trying to search for a singular pillow each time. So I'm going to go back into models, I believe is where I'm double check products. So I'm not going to do products because they're not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to go into models, and the one that I'm going to download is, let's see, where'd it go? Sometimes you kind of have to scroll to find this one you like. And what's great about all of these models too is no matter what they have, you can always explode it and edit it to make it custom to what your project is doing and what you need in your space. So I don't know, let's see. The one that I did before is not showing up, which is always awesome. Sometimes that happens. We're just going to go on the fly here. Check out the new one. Okay. So we're just going to go with the simple one that has, mantle, space. So we're just going to click do this one. Okay. Let me see if I can exit on here. Click and go back over to this person. Do page this dude. Unfortunately, one thing I wish that SketchUp kind of would do is like keep track of things that you downloaded so you can kind of find them again. It doesn't always do that, so sometimes it can be a little frustrating if you're trying to duplicate stuff. But we'll do our best. Check in here real quick so we can find someone. Move on. All right, we're just going to do that one. Okay. So I'm going to hit the backspace. If you're trying to kind of navigate it, you can always just use the back buttons up here. So we are going to download a fairly simple one. All right. Okay, so we're going to go into your collections. There should be one collection by Sharon B that has 27 different things in it and has that kind of like aggressive picture of fire on it. So click into that. And we're going to download this first one that she has. It's just called Fireplace. I'm just going to click the download button again. It's going to ask you if you want to download directly. And hit yes. And then it's going to pop up just like this. So we're going to rotate it like we've done before and move it this way. So the difference with this one, the reason why I had you kind of make this hole, the hole in the wall, is because the model that I found earlier actually has kind of the back piece to the fireplace. So I kind of move it out. It has the whole back part of it with everything going on, which is why we made the hole in the wall. But for whatever reason, I can't find that model again. So we're just going to go with this one that's going to give us the same look, but it's going to fake it, kind of. So we're going to move this guy over. And I click on kind of the middle point and line it up with the midpoint here. And then we're going to move it. Oh, I don't want the wall to move. We're going to move this guy up. And then you can kind of click on the bottom here and pull it down, and SketchUp will kind of give you a little like notice when you hit the other face. It'll say on face in group. So you're just going to click that. So now we know it's flush to the floor. And there you go. So if you wanted to, kind of same situation as the windows, you could always go in and make this bigger or smaller, depending on what your project specifies. But for now, we're just going to leave it the way it comes in. All right. So now we have a fireplace, we have our windows, we have our walls. Let's start adding some materials before we add any furniture or anything. So the way the materials work in SketchUp is that they're painted on. So if you look over here in this kind of this other window, if I were to click on something here, so it says entity info. info. So right now it's telling you this is group 1 in model and that it's painted, you know, the generic average color. This is the window for materials. So you can, there are already materials that are put in by SketchUp no matter what. So you're going to have different asphalts and concretes. You'll have bricks and siding. You can get carpets. A lot of them are very ugly, but they're the generic files that SketchUp gives you. Landscaping situations, stone, and then you have colors. So any type of color you want. There's also a button that if you go to the top, it says in model. So for yours, you probably don't have anything in model, but because I have the already built version, it's picking up all the materials that are in that model and it's putting them in here. That's why I have a bunch. So what we're going to do first to find our wood color is we're going to go once again back to the 3D warehouse. That's where you can just find anything. And we're going to type in hardwood flooring. Once it loads. Hardwood flooring. And enter. And we're going to go into models. And you can kind of select really any of these if you wanted to. Or you can go into collections. And sometimes there'll be like actual flooring available. That'll give you very specific stuff. But for us, we're just looking for a material. We're going to go into models. And let's click the toasted almond one, because why not? So we're going to hit download and then click yes. And it just kind of comes in as this little tiny dude down here. So now if I want my flooring to be this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little eyedropper tool and I'm going to click on it. So now I have this material. And the other reason why we group things is because if we didn't group the flooring and I clicked on the this part right here, this top section would turn the hardwood floor, but the sides and stuff wouldn't. So it matters a little less about flooring because unless you're taking you know, cross sections of stuff. But if I click just anywhere because it's grouped, the whole thing will become that material. So now the other thing at times with materials when you bring them in is they're very small. So this is not at all, doesn't look like it's to scale, it looks pretty funky. So then what you can do is you can go into edit, SketchUp stops buffering. So you have the select button where you're able to actually select your different stuff, or there's the edit button. So in this edit button, I'm going to pull this down and you can see there's a scale here. So you can change the scale of things. I'm going to type in 2 feet and see what happens. So it looks a little bit better, but it's still a little small. So we're just going to eyeball it to 3 feet. And we'll just go, and we'll do like 4 feet. Let's see what happens. All right, I kind of like that better. Again, so when it comes to the ways that I've used SketchUp before, some of the stuff ends up being more for rendering purposes. So you don't all, like the way I've used it, I haven't stressed super hard about like it being perfectly to scale. But for the most part, you are able to change the scale, and then you can also always just make individual wooden planks if it was a very technical thing. But for the most part, you wouldn't ever really dimension a SketchUp model. This wouldn't be used for construction purposes. So the other thing we're going to do, let's see, if I come in here, okay, so it's not letting me do it. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. It's very finicky, but sometimes you can rotate the way the pattern is displayed. So if I wanted the wood planks to go vertical, I could right click, and then sometimes there would be an option to kind of move or rotate the pattern. So then I'm just going to delete the little dude that had the material. Even if you, so the way that SketchUp works when they list the materials and model, even if I loaded that little piece of cardboard flooring and I put it there and then I deleted it, it would still, that material would still come up in material and model. You can delete them and it'll still keep track of it. So now we have our floors kind of figured out. If I wanted to, so say I want my flooring to be a bit more gray in tone than what they are right now. They're a little bit too kind of yellow. I can go into edit again and I can change the color. So I'm going to go kind of here and we're going to desaturate it a little bit and make it a little bit lighter. And this is all kind of just preference and your way of kind of moving through how you want it to look, and kind of all personal preference situations. And you can type in specific color codes and even change it on the color wheel there. So we're going to want green flooring, that's not good. So we're going to kind of move it a little bit in that direction. Bring it down. And this is a lot of like trial and error of just like ones you like. But say I like really royally screwed up and now I have green flooring, I don't know how to get back, I've missed the old color. I can hit this reset color button and it'll go back to the way it was. So then I can decide that, okay, I'm going to keep the base color, I'm just going to desaturate it a little bit and make it a little bit lighter. And that's as much changing as I want to do. And I'm just going to go back to the select button and kind of there we go. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to color most of the walls. So I'm going to go into colors. I know that aside from the accent wall, I want them to be gray. So I'm just going to come in, pick a gray. I'm going to click. So that gray is really dark. I'm going to go to the next shade up. And there's that. So because again, we grouped it, I can just click it once and it'll, work out. I'm going to do the same thing for these walls. So they're together, but remember that these kind of side panels, I'm going to want them to actually be the same color as this front one. So once I have this color, I'm going to go in and into the group and edit it. So now we're going to color this front panel. The way that I decide on the color is I click on this color, I can go to edit, or I can go to color, and then if you click this button, it looks like a little box with a plus sign, you can create a new material. So you can take any base and create a new one if you don't want to edit the one that already exists, and you can then kind of mess around with everything again. So I'm gonna just kind of mess around with it, pick whatever color you want, whatever suits your fancy. I want it a little bit darker than the way it was. I'm gonna hit OK. So now I have this new material and it's loaded. So I can click here and it's going to change the color. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into this group because I want these sides to be that color as well. So I'm just going to click there and I'm going to click there. And I'm going to hit double click out. So now I have this kind of feature bump out. That's going to be that way. And then I also want just kind of that whole wall to be colored. So I'm going to go into here again. This just random line, you can delete it. And then once again, I'm going to paint those specific sides and then hit escape. So now we have the paint on our walls. We have our fireplace in, we have our windows in. Now we can kind of start messing around with furniture. Also, I will note too, if you have something already painted, so say I painted this and I realize now it's actually darker than I do want it. I can just go automatically in the edit button and start editing it, and it will fix it without me having to like repaint anything. So I'm going to make it actually a little bit lighter than I did, and then hit select, and that's where I want it. So now we're going to load in some shelving. So I'm going to go again, or I'm going to hit File, Save. I'll take a break again too. If anyone, how are we doing? Is everyone like good? Are there any questions? Feel free just to yell them out. Okay, so we're going to go to Window, We're going to go back to the 3D warehouse. Now I'm going to type in, let's see what open shelving gets us. Open shelves. Type, that's also great. Open. All right. So sometimes when you're looking for a certain thing or you're looking for a certain look of something, you kind of have to try various different phrases of what you're looking for, because sometimes open shelves isn't going to get me what I want, but floating shelves could. You know, you kind of have to play around with it. So I'm going to go over to the products, see if I can find what I want. If I'm not finding it, that's totally cool. Go into collections. Where did that one go? Let's see. So I may check a couple of the collections, see if there's anything in there that I'm actually looking for. And then if it's not, so like right now, the ones that I used earlier, I'm not finding. So I'm going to type in floating shelves and see if I can find them. Floating shelves. And hopefully they'll pop up, which would be the best situation. So I'm going to models. And there we go. All right, so this is the one that I want. So you want to type in floating shelves. And what's cool is sometimes you'll get kind of these already decorated shelving things, which if you're being super specific as to what you want on shelves, then you can type in accessories and pick them out, hand pick them. But for this purposes, like for this model, it's great that we can kind of find one that's already pre-picked out. So I'm going to download this into my SketchUp. It's going to take its nice time figuring it out. Sometimes when you're loading in big stuff into SketchUp, you'll get the little blue circle and it'll start to kick you out because it'll say not responding at the top. Just give it time. It's just trying to load a lot of stuff. It causes many a panic attack, but it will be fine. So I'm going to click on it again to kind of help it move along. All right. So now it's loaded. I can place it somewhere. If I'm not seeing it pop up anywhere, it's probably because it's somewhere over here. I'm just going to click just randomly anywhere so that it lands itself. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to explode this and then delete this picture because that's pointless and useless. So now I have these lovely shelves that have stuff that's already done. So I'm going to do first, because I don't really like the color of the wood, I want it to be a little more rich. I'm going to double click into the group, click on double click into the shelving group, and then I'm going to pick up the wood. I don't want to lose this material, so I'm going to make a new one because I don't want to screw it up if it's not what I want. And then I'm going to play a little bit with the coloring of it. So I want it to be a little more rich. So we're going to bump up the saturation a little bit, kind of bump the brightness down to whatever suits your fancy. Kind of bump that up a little bit. I don't want it to be too orange looking or too yellow looking. Also, if for whatever reason, like clicking along the line isn't doing what you want, you can click on the little tabs. And I'm going to hit OK. So that's the one I want. I'm going to hit Escape because I want to be able to color it as a group. I'm going to make my life a lot easier. Don't click in here. If it's not doing it, because for whatever reason it's being weird today, what you can do, kind of like how we made the groups, if you highlight it, I'm going to then uncheck these groups just by holding down the Shift key and clicking. I don't want them highlighted. So unclick them, and then I'm going to click on this material, click, and all of the shelving is going to change. I'm going to hit the Escape button. So now they're a color that I like. I'm going to rotate them again like we did with the window. So they're facing the right direction. And I'm going to grab this kind of bottom piece here. I'm going to click it, zoom out, and then drag it over to here. I'm going to click it right there. So right now, the shelves are too big. Totally fine. But I don't want to just use the scale button because I don't want all of the little accessories to get scaled weirdly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click inside the situation. I'm going to double click in here. I'm going to take this one, this one, this one. I'm going to take like these kind of grouping. I'm going to hit Control C so that I copy them. Then I'm going to delete them, and then I'm going to hit Escape. So now, if I go into where I'm just touching, I'm just handling the shelves, I'm going to actually click on them and make them their own group now, so I don't have to keep doing that kind of aggravating highlight. So now I'm just scaling the shelves themselves, not the other elements, and I'm going to drag it to the edge of the wall where I want the shelves to stop, and then I'm going to go Escape. So now I want them to line up roughly with the top of the mantle. That's kind of where I want the bottom of it to go. So I'm going to click on them, and I'm going to drag it down. So just click on your button, your move button, and just kind of click anywhere and start dragging down. And I want the bottoms to be a little bit in line with the thing. So now I have a set of shelves on this side. So before I copy these over to this side, I'm going to hit the paste button so that we can paste the elements that we copied before we deleted them. So I clicked on paste, and SketchUp is loading. So those candles and that kind of vase that we got rid of are going to come back once SketchUp catches up with itself. All right, so they're here. So I'm just going to put them on the floor for now, just kind of get them out of the way so that they're there. We don't lose them, but I don't need them at the moment. So I'm going to click on our entire group here of the shelves. I'm going to copy it. So Control C. And SketchUp's going to take a minute because I was trying to copy a lot of stuff. Then I'm going to Control V it and paste it again. And again, SketchUp's going to buffer. All right, so they're here. So I'm going to bring this up again, just kind of place them anywhere so that I know they're in the model. Then I'm going to click on this top piece and move it so that it notches into where I want it to go. And then another thing I can do, if I want to make sure that they're all aligned, is I can go in again with my measuring tape, draw a line out, and then I can draw a line over, and then I can draw a line back. Now I have some grids of where the top part's going to go. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to click on this corner. I'm going to drag it down, straight down, until it sits on that line. So now I know all four walls are going to be even. Now, the reason why we didn't just delete the candles and stuff is that this looks very obviously copied and pasted. So we're going to do a little bit of alterations to kind of the stuff on the shelf on this side. So I'm going to double click into it. I'm going to delete this guy because I don't want that plant there anymore. I'm going to kind of move him. You know, this is mostly all to just whatever your liking is. I'm going to move him over to the corner. I'm going to move these guys to the center. Right there. Then what I'm going to center. Then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to double click in to get to the group. I'm going to explode this group so I can have both of these on their own. I'm going to move this painting up here and kind of give it a bit of a 45-degree twist. I'm going to stick that, maybe I'll stick him in the corner. And then maybe here. All right, so I'm going to hit escape because that's where I want that to go. I'm actually going to delete him to make it even a little bit more not duplicated. Now I'm going to go get my vase that we just kind of stuck on the floor. I'm going to come down so I can grab the bottom of the vase, bring it back up to the shelf. Now I'm going to stick the vase here and give it kind of a turn, make it look however way you want it to look. That is on the wall, so I'm move them back. All right, and then same goes for the candles. So now I'm just going to go over here, kind of grab all of these dudes. I'm going to turn them. I already know kind of the rotation that I want to have on the shelf. So I'm going to rotate them here, and then I'm going to come down to the bottom. Make sure I grab the bottom so that we don't have any floating candles on the shelves. You know, they're not. They'll be on the face of the group. And then I'm just going to stick them in kind of this back corner. So that's just kind of a nice way of manipulating things so they're not overly obvious that they're the same thing. You could also go back into the 3D warehouse and just type in accessories or shelf accessories and pick out brand new ones. And probably if I was doing this for a real project, I would do that so that it wasn't as clear and obvious. All right. So now we have our shelves. I'm going to save again. Now we're going to put in our couch. So just like everything else, go back to my 3D warehouse. And honestly, the 3D warehouse is kind of one of the best things about SketchUp is that it really gives you a lot of options to make the space look the way you want. It gives you a lot of autonomy over editing models. Definitely, at least for interior design, the main programs we use is either SketchUp or Revit for our modeling purposes. And definitely one of the biggest differences is Revit isn't as intuitive and doesn't give you as finished looking models. And it takes a lot more on your end to make them look more, finished and nice and stuff. So we're going to type in sofa up here and click enter. And for our purposes today, we're actually going to pick this little setup that's already there because it can take hours if you really want to find the exact sofa you want. You can mix and match, pick whatever you want, but we're trying to kind of do as much as possible in a short amount of time. So if you just type in sofa, go to the models tab, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 rows down. It should just be called sofa. It's by Ard S. And you'll see kind of a 3-seater sofa, a coffee table, a rug. So we're going to download this into our model. So if your Sketchup is buffering like mine, don't stress, don't come back. All right, so now I have this whole situation here. I'm going to place it over here because I want to rotate it. But first, I want to delete some stuff because it's too big for the space that I want. I'm going to go into the group. I don't want to explode it because I want certain things to stay grouped. So I'm just going to double click into the group. I'm going to delete this kind of ottoman, and I'm going to delete this lamp and this side table just because it doesn't really fit what I want. I'm going to hit escape to get out of the group. I'm going to rotate the group again. So grab our rotate tool, kind of take it on the axis that we want. This one I'm going to turn 90 degrees, so it's going to go from the red axis to the green axis. And then I'm going to go all the way down here. I'm going to zoom kind of tight in. And if you look at the carpet has thickness. So I want to make sure I'm grabbing on the bottom of the carpet, not the top of the carpet, or it would be, you know, the same as having like the carpet halfway into the hardwood floor. So I'm going to click on this corner, kind of underneath the couch. I'm going to zoom out. So now I know I have it selected at a good point where it's going to be able to be set right. So I'm going to drag it all the way to the door frame, because at the door frame I can kind of see where the flooring is, and I can match up with this line. So I'm just going to click it there. So now I know that for certain the carpet and the couch and everything is on the right plane. Now I'm going to go up to the top view, and then I'm just going to play with placement. So I know I want it pretty centered. You know, you can go through and actually center it if you want. And I know I want it kind of up here, and I want it, you know, back of the couch to overlap the doorway a little bit, but not too much. That's not, you know, blocking anything. And I'm just going to kind of maneuver him however which way I want. If you want it, again, if you want to not see perspective, go up to your camera, standard view at the top, and then you know, camera, standard view, and turn off your perspective. And sometimes that'll help you kind of move things and center things because it'll be a little less realistic. So I'm just going to go back and then turn my perspective back on. And I'm satisfied for where he is. So we're going to stop there. Now this right now, if it were me, I would want this kind of part of this coffee table to be more of a wood color. I don't really want it to be this generic brown paint. So I'm going to double click in it. I'm going to double click in here. I'm only going to double click once because this is its own group already. And I'm going to go take the same wood color that I made the shelves, and I'm just going to put it there. And now to me, it looks a little bit nicer of a quality piece because it's not just paint, you know, it's a wood piece. So now we have our furniture, but the walls are totally bare. So we're going to put, oh, actually, we're going to have one more piece of furniture we're going to do. We're just going to put kind of like a little table in here just to make it look a little less like a random side room and more like a kind of hallway. So again, I'm going to go to the 3D warehouse. I'm going to type in a hallway table, see what pops up, see if there's anything I like. So there's a bunch of versions of kind of generic, skinny hallway tables, and I don't necessarily like those. So we'll go into this collection and see if there's anything in here that we like better. All right, there is. So these look a lot nicer than just kind of the generic. So I'm just going to pick that first one that says the console table. I think it kind of works. So again, how we got there, we searched hallway table, we went into collections, we clicked on the first collection, which is entry hallway table, it has 30 entries in it. And then we're just going to download the first entry, which is this console table that's kind of funky. So we're going to download it, again, clicking on yes. And then it's going to load, and we'll kind of just stick it wherever you want, and then, you know, go down and kind of make sure it's actually placed correctly. And yeah, for this, I'm not overly worried about where it is. I just want it to be a little bit noticeable out the door. All right, so next we're going to add in our curtains. So go back to the 3D warehouse. Wait for SketchUp to buffer. And this time I'm going to switch curtains. It's going to give you a bunch of different options. Pick whichever one suits your fancy. I'm going to go into models. I'm just going to get kind of some generic curtains that I like that aren't too overbearing. And I personally, I want the curtains to be open because I want you to be able to see what's going on. So I'm going to click on this one. I went to curtains, I went to models, and then I just scrolled all the way down. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's like the 16th or so down. It's by Nicole.h. Again, you can use whatever curtains you want. I'm going to download these ones. Yes, it's going to download. And then they're going to come in. So I'm going to rotate them. That's what I want. Move it over. So they're here. So say I brought in these curtains and I don't like the color they are. I want them to be a lighter gray, or I want them to be blue, or whatever. I can go over to my little eyedrop tool, click on it, and I could either make a new version, make a new one, and apply it, or for this one, I'm just going to directly edit it, and we're going to make it a bit of a lighter gray, and maybe, yeah, I don't want it to be like that, so I'm just going to make it a little bit of a lighter gray. Click on it, and then I'm going to click and drag so that they kind of line up with the window. I'm also going to make it smaller, so I don't like how wide it is. So I'm going to go back over my scale tool, like I've done before, and push it a little bit so it fits more of the size of the window. Center it to my best of my ability. And then I'm going to drag it closer to the wall. You know, sometimes, you know, it's cool, it's fine to have some of the curtains kind of go into the wall if you need to, but just make sure it generally looks good. So I have my curtains, but they're too low. I don't like where they are, but I want them to hit the floor. So I'm going to, again, go up and scale it. I'm just going to kind of pop them up to about there is where I want them to be. So now I have curtains, and this is starting to look a little bit more like an actual room. But now that I'm looking at it, the curtains are now too close to the color to the wall. So I'm just going to go back into my editor. I'm going to darken them up here so they stand out a little more. All right. So then we're going to put a TV above the fireplace. So again, 3D warehouse. And do wall mounted TV. And we're just going to get any old model, whatever one you like. I'm just going to download the first one that comes up. Hit yes. And load. A lot like the other ones. Sometimes you have to rotate it. To center it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go to the back, find where it is going to touch the wall the most. Okay, so this happens a lot of times in SketchUp. You get lost in a wall. So you scroll off so you can kind of find where you are. And go here, try to find the midpoint of the group. All right, so I found the midpoint. I'm going to click it and line it up with the midpoint of the wall. That didn't actually work. Okay. So then right now it's kind of sticking into the wall, so I'm going to go through it and just move it out so it doesn't. It's actually like wall mounted, not sticking in the wall, and then I'm just going to bring it down to whatever height that I think looks nice. All right, so now I have a TV. And then lastly, we're just going to put some art on the wall. So we're just going to put this art here and this art there. Going to go into 3D Warehouse again. And again, like 3D Warehouse stuff, you can put lamps in. You could just literally anything you could ever think of that you need in a space, or that you want in a space, just type it in, and most likely you're going to find it. So I'm going to do wall art and see what pops up. And then you have all these options. So I'm going to click on which ones. We'll do these ones. I think they look cool. Click on whatever ones you want. I'm going to click on this one. And it's going to load in. All right. again, backwards, rotate. And then, just like the TV, I'm going to go to the back, click on hopefully centered, click on the top of the wall, and then I want these to be slightly bigger than they are now. So I'm just going to scale them like I've done other stuff. Scale button, and zoom in, so I grab the right scale. When I'm scaling these, I'm going to hold the shift button so that I know they're going to scale equally and not, you know, kind of get all funky. And then I'm going to just kind of move them around, place them where I want to go. Nope. And we'll just kind of set them like that. And then I'm just going to look for one more piece to put back here. So I'm just going to go back to the 3D warehouse. The 3D warehouse will keep up anything that you like last searched, so I don't have to type in wall art again. I can just go back in and it'll kind of already be there. A lot of different options. Products, let's see what's there. Some more interesting pieces. And let's just find like one more kind of try piece. Maybe we'll do abstract art. So again, kind of rotate. And get into here. Kind of get that side point up. We're just going to get any kind of group. Stick it on the wall. And then we're just going to center that. All right, so now we have pretty much a finished interior. The sands, you know, if we wanted to put in more lights or we wanted to do different stuff on the mantle or stuff like that, we could. And, you know, if you want, right now I think this mantle looks a little bit small. So I'm just going to make him a little bit bigger and kind of recenter him. So it fits the wall a little bit better. And again, you know, if I was doing this for an actual project, I would probably, you know, scale it to a certain size or a certain length that I want based on a fireplace that I've spec'd out or I've decided I'm getting from somewhere. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a ceiling. So the ceiling, pretty simple. We're just going to trace. So we're going to draw a line there to here and just trace the exterior of the entire project. This. And then what we're going to do with the ceiling is we're just going to extrude it a foot, just like we did the other, just like we did before. I'm just going to pull this up 1 foot. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of highlight it. I'm going to go to the side, so hopefully all I'm going to grab is the ceiling. And I can kind of come in here and actually drag my mouse in to make sure all I did grab was the ceiling, which I did. So I'm going to right click, make it a group. I want the ceiling to be white, so I'm going to go into select, go into colors, just go all the way to the bottom to white. Yes. I'm just going to click on the group because it's going to change it. All right, so now we have a ceiling. So we're almost ready for Enscape. The last thing we're going to do is add in lights. So the way that Enscape works is Enscape is like a plugin, program. So once you have a version of it, again, so the reason we didn't have you download Enscape for this website, this workshop, is because you have to register for like a student account, and then they have to get back to you with an email and like a license key. And they're operate out of Germany, so there's no way for you to actually contact them except for email, unless you have the ability to call a random German phone. So we're just going to kind of watch me go through Enscape. So if I go up to my SketchUp, because I already have it, under extensions, I have Enscape. So what I'm going to do before I even start Enscape, I'm going to go down to Enscape Objects. So I'm going to click on Enscape Objects, and another window is going to pop up. At least I hope it does. All right, so here are Enscape Objects. So these are light sources. So for interest of time, I'm not going to go through and download a 3D model of a like recessed lighting or whatever. But if you did want recessed lighting in your space, or you wanted a wall, a fan or a ceiling light, you would obviously download those lightings. And then what you can do is put in these Enscape objects, which are just kind of spheres or spotlights or lines of light. And you can kind of place them on top of whatever you've modeled that's your light source. And in the SketchUp model, you'll see it as like a white sphere. But when you go into Enscape, that white sphere is gone and it just becomes a light source. So it can actually look like your lamps or your lighting is actually on and functioning. So for this purpose, we're just going to click on sphere, and then I kind of just drag it out and I click. And so now I have this little tiny sphere of light. I can change the size of it. I can change how intense of a light source it is. I can change how big it is based on these kind of settings. And then just like any other object that we've downloaded, I can move it around. So I'm just going to kind of sporadically place these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hide my ceiling right now. Hide my ceiling so I can kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm going to move this guy and I'm going to set him up here. Nope, I don't want to rotate him. Not asking me to rotate, please. Okay. So I just want to make sure he's in line with the ceiling. I'm just going to, oh, I don't want to move it. Here. I'm just going to kind of center him in this space. And then, just like some of the other components, I'm going to hit copy and paste. So Control C and Control V. Another one's going to pop up. I'm going to make sure it's in line with ceiling. Height of the ceiling. And then I'm down. More up there. I'm just kind of moving into the center. And then I'm going to do the same thing, probably like 4 of them in here. So I'm going to actually click on both of these, copy them as a pair, and paste them as a pair. And we'll just kind of stick them anywhere. And then go in, zoom in, make sure you're actually grabbing where you want to go. Stick it there, and then just kind of move it into about there. And then I'm going to hit Control V again. Get another set, and then I'm going to again line up with the ceiling, and then position them where I want them to go. All right. So now I have my lighting in. I'm going to unhide my ceiling. I'm going to go to View, Hidden Geometry. I'm going to unhide, View, Hidden Geometry. Now, this isn't something you have to do because you don't have one that's already built, but I'm just going to hide this entire thing because I don't want it to show up in the rendering. So I'm just going to hit hide. So now we only have one. All right, so now we have our full final piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of set up where I want to, so I'm just going to kind of scroll into a wall. It'll look like it's taking forever, but now I'm in the space. All right. Oh. So I'm going to kind of generically figure out where I generally want to be in Enscape, and we'll take this one for this part. So now what we're going to do, we're going to save it again before we open Enscape, just in case. Okay. All right, so we're going to go extensions, Enscape, we're going to start Enscape. So now it's going to do its thing. Sometimes it takes long, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on how many different programs you're running, just like any other situation. So the cool parts about Enscape are You have a lot of control over lighting. You can take renderings. You can take very quickly. It renders out really fast, which is really helpful. You can make video walkthroughs, and you can render out videos of you going through your spaces, which is always really helpful when trying to kind of communicate how one would interact with them. All right, so now we're in Enscape. So it's loading, and it generally is loaded. So you can see that it looks a lot more like an actual room and not as much a model. These kind of brighter spots up here, that's because we put those light spheres there. So if I was going to kind of finish this off, I would have maybe recessed hand lighting here, or I would have a pendant lighter or whatever. So the way that you can move within Enscape is it gives you kind of these options down here. So if I use the W button, you know, sometimes it'll move. Mine likes to lag a lot. So I often will move more with the scroll on my mouse than with the keyboard. It tends to move faster. So then I'm gonna, if I left click and I rotate, it's gonna rotate throughout the room. So now I'm looking at everything we just made. I can see the exterior. If I press the scroll down on my mouse and I move it, then I'll move across. Enscape's very sensitive, so when you're moving, be really careful because it'll all of a sudden like get you out of your space. So right now in the background, I'm seeing like oral stuff. So say I wanted to imagine this is a living room of an apartment in a urban setting. I can go back to my SketchUp under extensions and Enscape. I can go to general settings. And is it in general settings or visual settings? Okay, so not general settings. That's not the one I want. I'm going to go to extensions, Enscape, visual settings. And that's going to give me, all right, perfect. So visual settings. I can go, so this type of thing is if I wanted, so you see how in SketchUp right now, everything's outlined in a black line. If I wanted some of those lines to show up, I could change that style of how much outlines I want. Image-wise, you can change shadow types, intensities, and different effects. And then if you go into atmosphere, we're going to change it. So if I can make it urban, I can make it a construction site. You know, if you're doing kind of a product design or something, you just wanted a white background, you can always click on this white background up here. I'm going to click town. And then you can change how many clouds are in the sky. The density changes all the lighting that's going to come in. So I'm going to click the X because I got it to where I want it to be. I'm going to go back here. So now you can see there's a town in the background instead of more oral stuff. So the other thing you can do is like right now, Enscape is having sunlight come through the windows, but maybe I want a different type of shadow. If you look down here, it's going to say orbit and shift, and that's going to change your time of day. So if I hold the shift key down, I right click on my mouse and I move it in kind of an arc, it changes the time of day, and then it's going to change what lighting is going to come into the room. So I can kind of keep dragging. So now it's nighttime, and all the lighting in the room we're getting is just from, actual lighting fixtures. But then I can keep going, and I can get certain shadows to come in based on where the sun is at that particular point of time. So then you can fully go through everything. You can rotate it, take different angles that you want. So we're going to go and maybe I'll scroll kind of as if we were just entering the room. And then I'm going to turn this up around. So this is our view of just entering the room. And maybe I back myself up a little bit and kind of situate how I want to see it. And you can orbit around, kind of make it however you want, whether it's up, looking onto it, if you want it eye level. You have kind of all of the capabilities of making those edits. So say that this is totally the view that I want. My client really wants to see this feature wall or whatever. I am then going to go back to, I have this the way it is. I'm then going to go back to the SketchUp. I'm going to go extensions, Enscape, and I'm going to hit take screenshot. I'm going to take screenshot. I'm going to label it, APX Sketchup workshop 1. I'll have it go to my desktop. I'm going to hit, and it's set to go as a PNG. You can make it a JPEG, up to you. I'm going to hit save. So once I hit save, you'll see a rendering image kind of little bar shows up on Enscape, and it's going to render the image out. It generally takes less than a minute, and hopefully it will be done in a second. All right, so it rendered out. So now I can go into my files if I wanted to, go on my desktop, you know, or my quick access or whatever. So I can come here, open it up, and I have a fully rendered image of my space that I can use for design posters, any type of purposes I want. So then what's great is that you can make kind of a lot of different renderings all at the same time, having the same lighting in the room based on time of day. And you can just move yourself around however you want to view it and make those renderings. So the reason why we made this kind of little hallway thing was that if we want to go to this side of the room, and we wanted to take a, sometimes your computer takes too much. And mine's like screaming at me at the moment because I'm doing so many different things. So I'm going to go kind of pop back into Enscape. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to kind of set myself up in SketchUp so that I'm not doing as much Enscape as I wanted to. You can also set scenes in SketchUp. So say you kind of went through and you know that this is like the exact position you want to see in your space in. You can go into scenes over here near materials, and you can click add scene, and now that viewpoint's going to be there. So say I scroll around, I'm like, oh man, I really liked that one point of view that I found. I can double click on scene 1 and it's going to take me right back to it. So that's really helpful when you're doing the different renderings. So then I'm going to see if Enscape will work one more time, and then I think we're going to kind of wrap it up because that's pretty much everything. But what's really nice is that Enscape can go into different programs. So when I open Revit, my Enscape is plugged into my Revit as well, and it's plugged into my SketchUp. So it really helps with a variety of different programs and allows you to do a lot of cool, realistic renderings for different presentation purposes. You can do it on the exterior as well. You know, it would just be that you spend more time on the exterior of the building than the interior. So again, we kind of made that hallway so that if we were to take a view of it from this angle, you wouldn't just see, you know, blank space out there. But we can kind of zoom out, and this is generally what Enscape looks like kind of from the outside. Is it has this background, it kind of has this pit of nothing at the bottom, and you can, you know, I've done some where I draw in, you know, a road or whatever in SketchUp, and I take a picture of a building from the outside. It's, you know, all depending on what your project's needs are. And then you can kind of just go right through the wall, and then you're good to go. And then you can do the rendering, the image. You can also go to Enscape and you can do video path. You can do video editor on, and by doing that, you can then kind of do a walkthrough. So if you're doing a video editor, I could do add keyframe here, and then I could, you know, scroll to, you know, over here, add keyframe there. Maybe I can kind of move this way, and then, you know, I go out of here, add keyframe, and then I'll turn myself around, and then, you know, my final keyframe is, so you can see here's the camera, but, you know, my final keyframe is me looking into the room at the end. And I can put add keyframe, and then I can hit preview. So if I hit preview, it's going to run through the little video I made. And then you could just hit, you know, render out the video, just kind of the same style as rendering out the image. And that's really everything. That's all the stuff you can do in SketchUp, all the stuff you can do in Revit, not Revit, sorry, Enscape. You can really just use it for whatever purposes you need. So that's everything I have to show you guys. Does anyone have any questions? All right, then I'm sharing my screen so we can kind of all see each other again. And thanks.
That was super cool. I was very impressed the whole time. I have never used SketchUp. And
yeah, it's fun.
Wow, that's so detailed. Rhino could never.
Yeah, definitely. It's really great if you're doing a real detailed piece, or for us, you know, because we don't deal with the exterior of the building very much. You know, it's all about the interior parts. So.
Yeah, well, that was great. Does anyone have anything else to say? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Olivia. It was
no problem.
Great, super helpful. And we will post it on our YouTube channel as part of our series. So that's super fun.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming too.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna end the meeting.